What if everything you've ever believed about the story of Eve stems from a mistranslation? Imagine this, the foundational tale of Eve. A narrative that has helped shape cultures and religious thought for millennia might be built on a simple linguistic error. For ages, we've been told that Eve was made from Adam's rib, a version passed down as sacred and unquestionable. But what if that's not the full truth? What if an early misinterpretation of ancient Hebrew dramatically influenced how society views gender, authority, and human relationships? Could the original scriptures conceal a different message, one that redefines our understanding of feminine origin and divine equilibrium? In this exploration, we return to the language of Genesis itself, digging into the Hebrew words to uncover a version of the creation story that may have been misunderstood or even lost in translation. In Genesis 2:21-22, the term historically, translated as rib, may carry a much deeper meaning, one that disrupts traditional hierarchies and invites us to rethink the foundations of equality. Has a small translation slip kept women in a secondary role for generations? It's a question worth asking. What if the famous tale of Eve being formed from Adam's rib was never about a rib at all? How might that shift our perception of divinity, gender, and balance? Today we embark on a journey into an ancient enigma, one that challenges deeply rooted patriarchal beliefs. We'll examine how the mistranslation of just one Hebrew word has echoed through centuries, shaping theology, cultural norms, and personal identity. And more importantly, we'll uncover what the original text might actually say, a profound truth hiding in plain sight. The word at the center of this mystery is tsela, which appears over 40 times throughout the Hebrew Bible. Curiously, it's only in Genesis 2:22 that this word is translated as rib. **** in nearly every other instance throughout the Hebrew Scriptures. The word tsela holds a very different meaning, one that evokes concepts of structure, form, and symmetry. For example, in Exodus 25-12, when describing the construction of the Ark of the Covenant, tsela is used to refer to the sides of the ark. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and attach them to its 4 feet. 2 rings on one tsela, and 2 rings on the other. This isn't about ribs or bones. It's about balanced, foundational sides. Likewise, in 1 Kings 6-5, during the description of Solomon's temple, we read, "Against the walls of the temple, both the inner and outer sanctuary he built, a structure with side chambers all around." Again, the Hebrew term used is tsela, referencing architectural elements, sacred chambers, and supporting structures. These are not throwaway body parts. They're integral components of holy spaces, so why is tsela translated as rib only in Genesis? That single choice opens more than a linguistic debate. It exposes how translation can influence theology, gender dynamics, and societal norms. By interpreting tsela as a rib in the story of Eve, her creation was subtly minimized. Rather than being formed from a substantial portion of Adam's side, a co-equal part of his being, she became a figure crafted from a minor bone, a lesser fragment. This alteration, though seemingly small, contributed to the idea that woman was derivative, secondary, or even replaceable. Yet the original Hebrew doesn't support that interpretation. In fact, it speaks to a vision of mutuality and balance. Eve wasn't an afterthought. She was shaped from Adam's side, a partner equal in essence and dignity, meant to walk beside him, not beneath him. This realization invites us to re-examine the Genesis account with renewed perspective. By stripping away centuries of inherited interpretation, we begin to uncover a deeper narrative, one that celebrates sacred balance. A story where the feminine voice was never intended to be silenced, and where the masculine was never meant to rule alone. Stay with us as we delve further into the Hebrew roots of this ancient myth. Together, we'll explore how a single mistranslation might hold the key to healing spiritual divisions and restoring a more harmonious view of humanity. Adding weight to this, reconsideration is the consistent use of tsela throughout the Bible to describe architectural features, side chambers, and foundational structures, not anatomical parts. This lends strong support to the argument that its translation as rib in Genesis 2:21-22 may be a misreading of the Hebrew text. Furthermore, the Hebrew Bible includes clear terminology for bones and ribs when those meanings are intended. For example, the Aramaic word Allah, which directly means rib bone, appears in other scriptures, such as the book of Daniel. In Daniel 7-5, the prophet describes a second beast resembling a bear. And behold, another beast, a second like a bear, and it raised itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs Allah in its mouth between its teeth. Allah's unmistakably used to mean literal ribs, bones meant to be devoured, in the mysterious and deeply symbolic world of biblical language. Every word carries immense significance. Sometimes, the meaning of a single word can shape or reshape the spiritual imagination of entire cultures. The contrast between tsela and tsela reminds us how vital it is to approach ancient texts with linguistic precision and open minds. In doing so, we may uncover truths long buried under centuries of tradition, and perhaps begin to tell a fuller, more balanced story of our beginnings. The usage of the word Allah in the Bible is specific, anatomical, and entirely unambiguous. It leaves no room for interpretation. It clearly refers to a rib bone. This raises a powerful question. If biblical Hebrew already had a precise word for rib, why does Genesis 2:22 use tsela instead? This is not merely a linguistic detail, it's a deeply spiritual insight. Unlike tsela, which clearly denotes a bone, tsela carries a broader and more profound meaning. It typically refers to a side, a structural half, or a lateral portion, often used in architectural contexts to imply symmetry, balance, and wholeness. If the author of Genesis intended to convey that God simply removed a rib from Adam Isla, would have been the most accurate and appropriate term. But that word wasn't chosen, and the difference matters. This distinction reshapes how we understand the creation of Eve. It suggests that she wasn't formed from a small, insignificant, a fragment of Adam's body, but from an entire side, a substantial and meaningful division. Rather than being a derivative figure, Eve emerges as an equal partner, a counterpart made from the same essence, worthy of the same dignity and value. This deeper interpretation repositions Eve not as an afterthought but as Adam's other half, a being created to stand beside him in equal measure. The implications of this shift ripple through centuries of spiritual interpretation. If Eve was made from Adam's side, not a single rib, then the entire foundation of gender hierarchy becomes subject to challenge. This reframing invites us to question long-held beliefs. It disrupts the notion that woman was created as a secondary, being inferior by design. Instead, it reveals a vision of humanity in which man and woman were always intended to share existence in balance, flesh of the same flesh, spirit of the same spirit. Such a perspective offers a more harmonious understanding of divine partnership, one rooted not in subjugation, but in mutual respect and sacred unity. And yet, for countless generations, the mistranslation of tsela as rib has persisted. This single error has subtly but powerfully influenced theology, social systems, and cultural perceptions worldwide. It has played a role in reinforcing patriarchal ideologies, teaching that women were formed from men, and therefore belong beneath them. This flawed understanding has echoed through sermons. It's influenced laws, shaped customs, and even molded individuals' self-worth. Its impact is not just historical, it's alive today in the systems and structures that continue to marginalize women. The notion of male primacy, born from the idea that woman was fashioned from a lesser part of man's body, has provided a convenient justification for denying women access to leadership, education, and agency. It has shaped policies, traditions, and spiritual beliefs across cultures. But when we return to the original language and revisit the text with fresh eyes, a different truth emerges. The ancient scriptures, when viewed in their original context, reveal a message not of hierarchy, but of equality. They speak of unity, not subordination, of harmony, not dominance, historically. Women have often been denied equal status, treated as property, and burdened with roles deemed inferior. Even today, Echoes of these views remain embedded in modern practices and beliefs. But this enduring mistranslation and the cultural consequences it has fueled did not arise in a vacuum. It has been sustained and perpetuated by patriarchal societies that have leaned on misread religious texts to justify unequal power dynamics. The belief that woman came from man's rib, a smaller, dispensable bone, has been used to support the argument that women are inherently lesser, destined to occupy a subordinate place in society. Now consider the true meaning of the Hebrew word tsela, aside, part that denotes balance and structure. Eve's creation from Adam's side symbolizes not inferiority, but equality and companionship. It aligns perfectly with the earlier statement in Genesis 1:27, which affirms that both male and female were created in the image of God. So God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. This passage reinforces the vision of shared divine identity and mutual dignity. ****. He created them in his own image. This understanding directly challenges the traditional hierarchy, offering instead a vision rooted in mutual respect and shared dignity. It suggests that from the very beginning, men and women were meant to walk side by side, not in competition, but in cooperation, equally sharing the responsibilities and joys of life. This perspective underscores the idea that both genders are integral to the human experience, each bringing their own unique insights, strengths, and qualities to the whole. Recognizing that Eve was formed from Adam's side, not beneath or behind him, allows us to reframe the creation narrative as one of partnership rather than power imbalance. When we revisit sacred texts with a commitment to linguistic accuracy and cultural context, something profound begins to unfold. Gender roles, long confined by tradition, begin to broaden, revealing a deeper, more inclusive, and more balanced understanding of humanity. This shift does more than reinterpret history. It invites us to reimagine the present and the future. It encourages a vision of society where all voices are valued equally, where the contributions of both women and men are seen as sacred and essential. Language is far more than a communication tool. It shapes how we think, what we believe, and the world we ultimately create. The words we use and those we inherit influence the stories we live by. A single mistranslation, repeated over centuries, can alter the very soul of a message. The frequent simplification of the Hebrew word tsela to rib has echoed through history as a symbol of female subordination. But when we return to its original meaning, aside, structural half, we uncover something far more powerful, even transformative. That's why translation isn't merely an academic concern. It's a moral and spiritual responsibility. Misreadings of sacred texts can reinforce inequalities that were never intended, embedding injustice into the very systems that shape our societies. Yet within those same scriptures lie deep affirmations of shared leadership, compassion, and spiritual equality. Consider Deborah, the prophetess and judge of Israel, as described in the book of Judges. Her wisdom, courage, and divine insight granted her not only admiration, but real authority in a time when female leadership was rare. Her story is not a minor footnote. It stands as a powerful reminder that leadership is defined not by gender, but by purpose and clarity of calling. Or take the story of Ruth and Naomi, a profound narrative of resilience, loyalty, and sacred companionship across generations. Their bond is more than personal. It offers a spiritual metaphor for love, persistence, and divine guidance. Through their journey, we glimpse a model of partnership that transcends the limitations society has often imposed on women. These narratives, many like them, urge us to re-examine the biases we've inherited and to embrace a richer, more truthful understanding of spiritual equality. They challenge us not only to question long-held assumptions, but to imagine a more just world, one where leadership, love, and dignity are not confined by gender, but guided by divine intent and human potential. When we return to the origins, to the pure language and symbolism, untainted by centuries of interpretation or agenda, we begin to rediscover a divine intention rooted in partnership, not dominance. It speaks to a sacred harmony founded on mutual honor, not forced silence. By reclaiming these ancient truths, we do more than write the historical record. We lay the groundwork for a future built on empathy, shared purpose, and equality. A future where every voice, every soul, every sacred expression of both feminine and masculine energy is welcomed into the co-creation of a world guided by justice, wisdom, and love. The story of Ruth and Naomi from the Book of Ruth illustrates the depth of resilience and loyalty embodied by women. Ruth's unshakable commitment to Naomi and her courageous efforts to support and sustain their families shine as a testament to the vital roles women play in the strength and survival of their communities. Likewise, Mary Magdalene emerges as far more than a follower. She is the first to encounter the risen Christ, a role that places her at the heart of the resurrection narrative, directly challenging the traditional exclusion of women from spiritual authority. Her presence affirms the central influence women had in shaping the earliest expressions of Christian faith. And then we find Priscilla, frequently named before her husband Aquila in the New Testament, a subtle but powerful detail. This ordering points to her prominence as a teacher and spiritual leader in the early church, offering divine insight to others across the ancient world. Her story, like so many others, calls us to reconsider the roles women have long held, not behind the scenes, but at the very center of sacred movements. As we explore terms like tsela, often mistranslated or misunderstood, we are prompted to examine the assumptions we've inherited. These aren't just stories from long ago. They are foundational blueprints, windows into the values we uphold, and keys to transforming our understanding of equality and divine design today. By revisiting and reinterpreting ancient scripture with clarity and care, we reclaim profound wisdom that has been obscured for far too long. Thank you for walking with us on this journey of rediscovery. If this message stirred something within you, a question, a realization, or a spark of curiosity, we invite you to like this video, share it with others who are seeking truth, and subscribe for more insights into the hidden layers of sacred texts and stories. Together, let's continue to uncover the wisdom woven into our spiritual heritage and reshape the future with reverence, quality, and light. ****.